Hi, Emily. Thank you so much for coming on Thrive Nutrition Podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here and sharing this really yucky, amazing story with parasites. So many people, though, are wondering about parasites. I feel like they're not a trend right now, but I feel like the awareness of parasites are so much higher than what it was maybe like 10 years ago. So I'm always getting questions on like, how do you know if you have a parasite? Like, what are you supposed to do if you have one? So before we get all into that, introduce yourself, who you are and what you do.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. So my name's Emily. I live in Dallas, Texas. I moved here at the beginning of 2018 and had been working for a functional holistic chiropractic office in Knoxville and just really missed my family, wanted to move back here, but loved what I was doing there, nutrition, kind of all of the functional medicine type stuff. So I decided to launch my own business in January of 2018 and started the Nutritional Therapy Practitioner program shortly after, like a month after in February. So I'm at the tail end of that. I'll be graduated with my certification in the end of October into November. So I've just been coaching nutrition clients and do a bunch of things on the side with marketing and cooking for families and meal prepping, and people always laugh because my job agenda is like a long list, but it's fun. It keeps things interesting. So yeah, I'm excited about where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, you get experience in all different ways, so that's awesome. So I said, we're talking about parasites and parasite cleanses, especially what you've done. So I'd love to hear your backstory on it, like how you got the parasite, and of course, getting parasites, there's various reasons why. So also covering why other people might get parasites. But I mean, I know you were active and stuff. Like, do you know how you got one?
So what's funny is I try to think back to all these different scenarios of where I could have picked it up, and I really can't pinpoint one thing. My gut is that I picked it up when I was in Brazil. We went on a service immersion project, and I had some digestive distress when I got back from Brazil. That's when I think I picked it up, but my functional medicine doctor thinks I actually picked it up walking barefoot on the soccer field when I had either a blister or a cut, because they're very prevalent in the grass's fertilizer. So he has a pretty big gut feeling that that's where I got it from. And because I was on a soccer field all the time, we were barefoot all the time. So I'm not totally sure where I got it, but
I mean, I understand Brazil, right? Because that's always like very common with contaminated waters and contaminated foods. I would think that. Soccer fields is a new thing because, I don't know, the health benefits of earthing and being barefoot on the ground.
Right, I know. He did a study too and was looking at trematodes and nematodes, which is two of the ones I had. And one of the studies that got pulled up was samples of it in the Tennessee River, which is right next to our campus. So obviously if the birds are drinking that water and it's being fertilized, there's a very good possibility. Like that was one of the first things that popped up. So I don't know. He seems to think that's how I got it.
So it's in the fertilizer that they use?
Yes, it gets put into the fertilizer, yes.
So could you possibly avoid that by, I guess, using a different fertilizer for like your personal yard or something? I'm just trying to think of like, that sounds so sad because now people are gonna be freaking out about parasites walking on a soccer field.
I know. And you do have to have like a blister or a cut or something for it to enter. So it can't just be like through your skin. So I probably had a cut or a blister playing a game and was walking off, and who knows? Who really knows?
That's crazy. So what are some other ways too people can get parasites?
Oh my gosh, when I was looking up all the reasons, it can be from fruits and vegetables that aren't fully washed and cleansed. People can get them from sushi, that's a big one, undercooked or raw meat products. Pork is a huge one. I know on my cleanse I had to steer clear of all pork. And then it just can be in our water supply. So that's why they said filtered water is just so important, because pathogens and viruses and parasites are getting into our water supply.
Yes, which is why I love reverse osmosis filtering. We have one for our house, and we have one for the countertop, and we had one underneath the sink too in our old house. But most of the filters on the market, like the ones that you just the pictures and all that stuff,
I was not into it for sure. I had one of those pitchers, and then when I learned, I invested in a Berkey.
Yep.
Even the Berkey shower filter.
Yeah.
So it's all filtered in my household now.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's life goal, is getting your whole house filtered because water is massive. We do use it for everything, and it's one of the biggest places where we're getting a lot of toxins now, which is nasty.
Yes.
So you have a parasite. How did you feel? What were some of your symptoms?
I think that's the craziest part is had I not had blood work done, I never would have suspected it because I would occasionally have some digestive problems, occasionally get a headache here and there, but prior to finding out I had one, never had the symptoms listed that are common with parasites. The clenching and grinding of the teeth, the insomnia, the vomiting. There's so many symptoms that can lead to a parasite. And if you have one, and I just didn't experience any of those. So I found out what was the true sign of my doctor testing for it was my elevated liver enzymes on my blood work. My AST and ALT were really high, and then the eosinophils were really out of range. So he just thought to test for them through homeopathic muscle testing, and it showed positive.
Okay, and how did that work?
So the way it works is, for people that aren't familiar with muscle testing, he is able to, like with a food or a supplement, have you hold it. And so his homeopathic kit, he has these glass jars that basically, if your muscle function turns off while it's on your body, you have a presence of that in your body. And it basically is an overabundance, a toxic load. So he placed all of the different strands of parasites for me to hold on to kind of figure out. And it was, okay, this one's a negative. Let's try the next one.
They test for it. So what happens? They put it on your chest, and what do they test for?
Yeah, so what he does is he'll put the little tube with whatever he's testing on your chest. You'll kind of hold on to it. You lift your arm up, and your arm, when he goes to press on it, will lose muscle function. Same thing with your leg. Like if you try to hold your leg out and he presses against it, you should be able to hold his resistance. But when a parasite or SIBO or candida or something he's testing for shows up positive, you lose that strength. So your leg then goes in or your arm goes down.
Interesting. I've heard that, and I've been hearing that a lot lately. I've always wondered the science behind it. Obviously, like not everything that works is always scientifically tested, but I've just wondered if it is.
Yes. He tests everything with me between food, supplements, clothing, there's so many things that can cause our body at a certain time to, lose muscle function. So it's crazy how it works. But yeah, that's how he detected it, was through that muscle testing.
Wow, that's awesome. And tell us about your protocol. When you figured out you had a parasite, what did it look like? Your diet, the supplements? Obviously, I know they're very different for each person, but tell us about it.
Yeah. When I left his office, I was so just flabbergasted and confused because I had never heard of anyone I know having a parasite. I just didn't. I thought I was like one in a million.
Yeah.
And he basically, when I left his office, just said, go to Whole Foods, pick up some black walnuts and some cloves. And I was like, okay. Well, I go to Whole Foods and I couldn't find either of those.
In food form or supplement form?
He was like, go pick up some black walnuts. I'm like, I've never seen black walnuts. I don't know what that is. So in food form, but I even asked the people at Whole Foods and they're like, we don't sell that. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went home and just started researching everything because I'm a nerd like that, and found a little tincture oil from Nature's Promise that had those two things in it. And my supplements that he was gonna order for me weren't gonna be in for a few days. So I ordered that tincture and just started taking it morning and night. And probably a few days later, I was able to see parasites in my stool.
Wow.
Like within 2 or 3 days. So just from that, yeah.
And that was a tincture. Did you leave it under your tongue? And
it was a drop. They had a dropper. And so I would take X number of drops right when I woke up in the morning and right before.
Wow.
And the reason why I picked that one is The three herbs and foods that kill parasites are wormwood, black walnut, and clove. Those are the three strongest things for all parasitic infections. So that's what I lean towards that. And then once I got into a more specific protocol for mine, it was more ingredients tailored towards killing those.
Right, right. And then what did your diet look like?
So with diet,
because I know you were eating clean, like already.
I was already eating clean. I just finished an autoimmune paleo protocol for 3 months. But you basically cannot have any sugar so fruit was totally off limits. It's too much sugar because it feeds the pathogens and parasites. No grains, no carbohydrates. You can't have like nightshade vegetables. So it was very much just a lean protein, so like chicken and fish, but you have to stay away from raw fish and sushi. No red meat, no pork. It was very restricted, but it was basically vegetables and lean protein the whole time while I was on the cleanse.
And no starchy, so like sweet potatoes were out.
Yeah, he wanted me to totally stay away from even the starchy vegetables.
How long did you have to do that for?
It was a total of 12 weeks, and the reason why he wanted it to be 12 weeks was because you have to kill parasites in phases and different stages. So they're active at some points and not active at other points. And that's why a lot of times people will get a stool test done to see if they have parasites, and it'll come back negative. And it's just that those parasites weren't active during that stage of the test. So the 3 cycles of 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off allows you to kill the parasites at every living stage.
Right. Because some are in the egg form, right? And then some are the adults. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
So when you were like 2 weeks off, like I know staying eating clean, but were you able to have like fruit or?
He wanted me to stay away from it as much as possible, but I had the freedom to add in a little bit. So I had on my off weeks some berries, maybe 1 apple a day if that was my source of fruit. But he really wanted me to just focus on staying away from sugar and anything that could be broken down into sugar.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so hard. I know that's so necessary though, especially with Candida. With my Candida protocol, it is like not fun. Like there's no starches, anything basically turned to sugar. And then making sure you're taking those supplements to help break down biofilms. I know it's with Candida, but same thing. It can be really hard. And I'm sure you felt like it seemed forever when you were like in the gist of it. But I always say, if you look at your whole life, it was really only like 12 weeks of your whole entire life. It's not that bad.
Exactly. I had to look at it as there is an end to this. There is absolutely an end at some point.
Exactly. And then now not having parasites, of course, you feel good. What were some other lifestyle things you were doing? Because I saw on Instagram, you were doing like the saunas and things like that. Why were you doing them, and other things maybe that you didn't post on Instagram I didn't see?
Yeah, I did infrared sauna. I sought out an infrared sauna near my house, and that penetrates really deep down to kind of help with the detox healing crisis and removing a lot of those toxins from your body. So sweating is really, really great, and infrared saunas were a really good way to do that. Also, any other things that improve lymphatic drainage. So I did dry brushing. I also did tongue scraping. Have you heard of that?
I mean, like scraping your tongue?
Yeah, so that now they're selling actual tongue scrapers, and it removes something called alma from your tongue, which when we sleep, we produce a toxin and bacteria on our tongue. So one of the things he wanted me to do was tongue scrape to remove that toxic film. And even before I had a sip of water or brush my teeth, to go ahead and tongue scrape, because it removes a lot of that bacteria and toxins from your body. You don't take a sip of water and it go back into your body.
Oh, actually, my husband, I think, has one. It's like a metal one, though.
Yes.
It looks like a U.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah, there's like little handles on it.
Yes. Okay, so you did that. That's really cool.
But really, I just focused on light walking, not exercising too intensely, the infrared sauna sessions, dry brushing. I dabbled with oil pulling a little bit, but I found that was just, I couldn't stick with it. Some people that works great if oil pulling works for you. then that would probably be something really great to implement. But other than that, that was really the main lifestyle changes I made, was just the lymphatic drainage and the infrared sauna sessions. I tried to go at least 6 of the 7 days a week.
I tried oil pulling. I think I was in a really good rhythm of doing it, probably for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I don't know, I just kind of
Yeah.
fell off.
I have a hard time sticking with it for some reason, but other people love it.
Yeah. And I saw you doing like hot yoga too.
So that's what's so cool about this infrared sauna is
it's that too?
Yes. So the infrared, they offer the yoga and Pilates and core classes in an infrared sauna. So you're in like a little hot box doing yoga to, expel and get rid of a lot of these toxins through yoga movements while you're also in an infrared sauna. So it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Didn't you feel like you're going to die?
I hate the heat.
I do too.
But for some reason, because it's infrared, it didn't feel like a normal sauna. So you're sweating, but you can breathe. It's not really hot air, if that even makes sense.
I may have to try it because I'm the same way. My husband loves saunas. He loves being hot. He'll like just in the hot summer in Texas, he'll like turn up the heat in the car. I'm like, get out of here. I'm like, I need cold. I love being cold. So when he was like, are you gonna try the sauna? I'm like, no, that sounds like I'd probably like pass out. Like it just does not sound good to me.
Yeah. So that was a fear of mine because I was like, I'm not a sauna fan. I don't like to sweat. I crave it now. I sleep better. It doesn't feel hot when I'm in there. You just kind of sweat. That's the best way I can explain it.
That's awesome. And I have to work out pretty hard to work up a sweat, to be honest. I'm not like those people that like can just be walking and I'm drenched. Like I'm actually not that big of a sweater. So like I have to be hardcore if you want me to sweat.
Me too. And I just sit in there for 20 minutes and I'm like pouring.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So now that you don't have a parasite, and I know that you're kind of on Instagram yesterday, you kind of were saying the next layer, the next thing that you're tackling, but how do you feel any different now that you don't have it?
I do notice some changes. My stomach isn't swelling nearly like it used to. And I remember I had a really hard time digesting food before. And if I didn't take digestive enzymes, my stomach was a wreck. And now I don't feel like that happens very often. I also don't feel like I'm as stressed and tense. So that's probably one of the biggest side effects. And my energy is more stable. So I would say those 3 things are what I notice the most post-cleanse. But yes, so with finding out one thing and fixing it, other things surface, and now it's a matter of getting rid of excess copper, because that's something that presented itself, excess copper toxicity, and looking into what what copper toxicity can cause. One of the things is parasitic infections. So you kind of think back to, was it the chicken or the egg? Did copper toxicity come from the parasite, or did the parasite come from the copper toxicity? So now it's a matter of kind of getting that under control and figuring out what the next step is with that. And from what I've heard, it can be kind of a lifelong thing. So it's just a matter of...
It's so hard. And that whole chicken and egg thing is even harder because, just as we have to look at health in like the whole body, like even stress can be the cause for candida overgrowth.
Yes.
So even just something simple like stress can like cause, gut issues. And I just find that sometimes it can seem super overwhelming to people, like, oh my gosh, I have to live like a perfect life in order to have like good health nowadays. But I mean, that's crazy. I'd be super interested to hear on like why you think you have the copper toxicity, and your doctor, did he feel that maybe that was the reason He
wasn't totally sure yet, because we just found out yesterday that the copper was there, because we got my blood work back because he wanted to do it a month post cleanse to see where everything was at. And my AST and ALT were still pretty high, but everything else had improved. So something was still bothering my liver and kidneys. And he went back to his homeopathic kit, grabbed the glass container with the copper. He tested all heavy metals, and the only one that turned off my muscle function was the copper. And he kind of had a light bulb moment go off and said, that makes sense. A lot of the symptoms you've been feeling and are still having, and the blood work results link back to this. So he is in the process of now calling the lab that I did my blood work through to see if they can pull a few more numbers from that since I just did them. So I don't have to go and get re-pricked and give more blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I totally spaced. We forgot one thing, coffee enemas.
Oh my gosh. Yes, totally.
Tell us about why you started doing them. Why are they beneficial?
That I attribute the coffee enemas to the success of the Parasite Cleanse 100%, because the coffee enemas is what actually gets into the liver and kills anything that's living or nesting in there. Antibiotics can't reach the liver. Even the herbs and supplements can't reach the liver without the coffee enemas. So those were so crucial and important for the cleanse. And I did them kind of in the same way I did the supplements, where I rotated them, but it was 3 weeks on, a week off, if that makes sense.
How many times do you do it every day, or?
It varied. There was one time where I was kind of in and out of the house, couldn't do it every day. And so we came to kind of not an agreement, but at least 4 times a week. If I could do it more than that, awesome. So it was usually about 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes 5 if I was home and didn't have a lot going on, for 3 weeks and then a week break. And the coffee enemas were massively, massively, massively important. I don't think a parasite cleansing protocol would be complete without them.
Be honest, did it hurt? Do they hurt?
It really didn't hurt. The first one I did, because if you've never done a coffee enema, I had never done one or heard of them, it can be uncomfortable in a sense that they're hard to retain, because with this type of coffee enema, you need to retain it for at least 15 minutes to allow the coffee to circuit through the liver 3 to 5 times. So that part of it was a little bit just uncomfortable, just having to lay there and really wanting to expel the enema and not being able to. But I did find towards halfway and the end of my protocol that adding blackstrap molasses and sea salt made the biggest difference. I was able to retain it so much easier.
Really?
Yes.
Do you know why?
I had done so much research around coffee enemas because there's just not a lot of info out there about them. And you even have some people that are saying they're dangerous, they're bad, they're all these things. And I asked my functional medicine doctor about it, and he said that other countries use them daily. They're the most healing protocol for people, and cancer patients will sometimes do 6 a day.
I know with Gerson, coffee enemas are a really, really big deal.
Yes.
Which is where I know it from, with dealing with like hardcore cancers and helping you detox and things like that. Makes sense for parasites. Any GI, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but it does. People get scared off. I probably am one of them, of just the like negatives that can happen, which are the, I think it's like the rupturing. Is it when you're inserting it? Maybe like you rupture something?
I don't even see how that could even happen, because
it's not like you're shoving a knife up there.
Yeah, it's just it's all like plastic, latex type.
Yeah.
And I think the only times people have had issues with it is if they use a wrong type of coffee that has mold, which I would never recommend using normal coffee. Just get a true coffee that's meant for coffee enemas. I tried out a few different brands, and I think I listed on my post about it which one that I was, in my opinion, the best one. And making sure the coffee's room temperature, not too hot. But I mean, the only difference is that it reaches the liver, just like a water enema. People use enemas all the time, and if you're having coffee and it's clean and it's healthy and it can help the liver purge and get rid of things, I didn't find anything from the people that I truly trust that they're bad. They have good things to say about it. And then through that research, the blackstrap molasses got brought up, and for some reason that helps you retain it. And so I started implementing that, and it made the biggest difference. It took almost all discomfort away.
Oh my gosh, how much did you add to it?
Anywhere from a teaspoon to half a tablespoon. They said grow up to a tablespoon, but I just did it after the coffee had boiled on the stove before I filtered it through a nut milk bag into the enema bucket.
Okay. Interesting. And then I guess you just kind of lay there and wait and
Yeah, there's a bunch of different posts and protocols on how to actually do the enema, which side you should lay on, how you should lay on. And I just found I'm trying to think of
I know people that like just kind of change. They first lay on their back, then they'll lay on their side, then they'll lay on their other side. And can you stand up? I mean, probably not.
I think it'd be probably too hard to stand up if thinking back. I found just laying on my back was the easiest thing for me, just because it's comfortable. And I just honestly would put on a podcast or a TV show and just distract myself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too bad. I would say if you're thinking about trying it, just go for it, because they can be just, even if you don't have a parasite or anything going on, so good to just detox and cleanse.
Yeah, I've heard some people like feel really, really great after it and more clean. I mean, is it explosive? Like, so I know that we have that ability to hold it in. Yeah. But what is it that like, does it feel like you're pooping? Do you have to like you normally push a little bit, or is it just like you can just sit there and it'll just come out?
You just sit there and the enema just flows out, basically.
Wow.
Because you always want to do one after a bowel movement. You don't want to do one before. So you basically cleanse your colon and your bowels by having a bowel movement, and then you do the enema. So basically the only thing that you're getting rid of is the liquid and anything that's just stuck in there. Old food, old fecal matter, but mostly it's just liquid for the most part. And then anything else that comes out with it, like the parasites or anything you're dealing with. I know people have seen the candida, the yeast, and things like that when they've done.
When you saw the parasites, did you like want to like dig and just like see, I don't know, save it to show your doctor? I mean, that would be me.
I think I was just so taken back and shocked, like, oh my gosh, that was in my body and I had no idea. And so I did not want to. I know some people are, but I was just like, I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to see it. Sometimes I wouldn't even look. And I'm just like, I couldn't. Like, I'll know if they're gone when he tests me and I no longer have them.
I don't know how I would feel. Like, I mean, yes, it's a good thing you're getting them out, but then you're probably thinking like, well, how many more are in there? How long have they been in there? And then, I don't know, your mind can just start to wander off into
your mind can so wander. And then you hear statistics that they lay 10,000 eggs a day, and you're just like, oh my gosh, possible.
That's crazy. I would love to put that link too in the show notes for people to be able to listen back to it and read it. So tell us where we can find you though.
So I am on Instagram at the Emily Morrow, and then my website is just theemilymorrow.com. Those are the two that I'm kind of most active on. And if you want to see me, I'm in Dallas. Would love to meet any of y'all. Just
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope that this can help people out and bring some clarity to it and kill off those little bugs.
Yes.